You are welcome to yet another grand episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. It has been the constant argument of many fans and supporters of R. Kelly from all over the world that R. Kelly deserves his freedom back, citing multiple legal errors in situations where government broke the laws of this nation while trying to destroy him. Also cited has been the distinct prejudicial tendencies by the judges and their teams of jurors, most of whom had been staunch fans and followers of the infamous docuseries Surviving R. Kelly. With their minds already corrupted by the narrative that R. Kelly is a monster, they had no space for imagination of his possible innocence even before trial. We all know the reason why the presumption of innocence before trial is an important component of the law. The main reason for this is to avoid issues of this nature quickly turning prejudicial, all as a result of excessive media involvement which may create a narrative the court officials may take to be the actual truth. In cases where high-profile celebrities like R. Kelly are involved, there is always a risk of matters digressing towards acts of prejudice, which will ruin the opportunity of finding justice through trial. Many case critics have also cited undeniable prejudicial tendencies among the trial judges themselves. Whoever told them R. Kelly was a bad man must have preached to their minds to believe it like gospel truth. We certainly wouldn't mind their opinion if they did not stick with it even after the government had failed miserably to prove their allegations against the R&B King. The women did try to accuse him, but this was all in vain as many of their stories were duly contested and disqualified as lies. While there are records to prove the women lied on R. Kelly and to the court, we don't feel like discussing Lisa Van Allen and her deceitful colleagues today. Sticking to today's topic, it turns out the appeal court judges have been following this case closely, and that they have read the trial transcripts in detail enough to know that indeed the trial judges are bent towards punishing R. Kelly regardless of what the law says, and whether he was found guilty of not. During the recent Chicago appeal hearing, as attorney Jennifer bOnjean argued out her case to the appeal judge, the Supreme Judge shocked listeners when she herself made inferences suggesting that in case bOnjean won the appeal and the case was referred back to the same trial judge for sentencing, there is a high chance he could easily decide to change the order from concurrent to consecutive, thereby making it even harder than it already is for defendant R. Kelly to smell the fresh air of freedom ever again. To explain her words, looking at what the trial transcript depicts, the trial judge's sole ambition is to see to it that R. Kelly dies in prison, regardless of the fact that the government failed at proving most of their allegations against him. Even after bOnjean indicated that this would be so unfair of the trial judge considering the appeal process is primarily meant to benefit and not to disadvantage the defendant, the Supreme Court judge insisted he could do it. Now listen.
And then they acquitted him of the conspiracy.
Ms. bOnjean, if we agree with you and send this back for resentencing, does your client realize he could end up worse off? Higher guideline sentence could be consecutive, or half of it, or more than a year, which would put your client in a worse position. So does your client realize that?
Yes, Judge. I do think that if the net result was a more significant sentence, it would be retaliatory for exercising his right to appeal. So I don't think the judge could, and I frankly don't think the judge would do that.
The judge certainly could. If it's sent back for resentencing, the judge could start over.
This is an indicator that even the Supreme Court judges do clearly see the impunity, and that they know what to expect from their juniors given an opportunity to re-exercise their powers over defendants like R. Kelly. She insisted he could do it even though it would be yet another act of utter prejudice by the trial court. The Supreme Judge's comments only left listeners who were tuned in from all around the world wondering who the trial judges work for to hate on R. Kelly that much, as to be willing to violate the standards of the U.S. statute just to ensure they make him suffer. While the judges too may have their feelings and opinions prior to trial, they have to follow the evidence presented by the plaintiff, and it is on this that they must base their decisions. But here is a trial judge who, according to the trial transcript, decided to adopt his own preponderance to issue an additional 10 years onto a defendant's sentence at age 55, technically sending him off to die in prison. While he failed to raise even one good reason for his decision to issue the above guidelines range sentence and instead chose to be ambiguous about this, there was a list of almost 1,000 reasons for him to opt otherwise which he adamantly ignored. The age of defendant, for example, alone was reason enough for him to reconsider his decision and opt otherwise, but he deliberately chose not to. This admission of prejudice in the R. Kelly case by a Supreme Judge alone raises pertinent questions about the fairness of the trial and the integrity of the entire legal process. It prompts a reassessment of the factors that may have contributed to bias, including media sensationalism, societal perceptions, and systemic inequalities, which is commonly referred to as impunity. It also emphasizes the need for safeguards to ensure that justice is administered equitably, regardless of the defendant's public image or societal status. This shocking appeal court event also serves as an example of the inherent challenges in adjudicating high-profile celebrity cases where media involvement is at its peak, and where those against the defendant are willing to take advantage of the unleveled ground to win a verdict. There is no doubt the presumption of innocence during the Chicago trial was overshadowed by preconceived notions and media-generated narratives, and sadly the federal judge was not left behind, greatly affecting the object of his decisions. This in turn undermined the defendant's right to a fair trial, and R. Kelly was once again, as was the case in New York, wrongly convicted and his sentence overcharged. The Supreme Judge's acknowledgement of prejudice by the trial judge, however, underscores the importance of safeguarding celebrity or high-profile due process and upholding the principles of justice at all times. According to Lisa McRae, so this is what has become of our legal system. They ought to know we who are watching and following this case from the sidelines are not stupid. There's a motive behind all these legal capers, like restitutions and immunity from prosecution. Money is the root cause of all evil. R. Kelly's catalog is worth only God knows how much. They are fighting like hell to separate him from it. And money is being made off of all the propaganda and slander. However, it seems to me that the supporters of R. Kelly are actually gaining traction. We've heard the oral argument. Jennifer bOnjean and her law firm are fighting back relentlessly. I am glad R. Kelly is standing his ground. This channel and others are reporting on the facts concerning the appeal. This is an epic battle, and I really believe God is on our side, because at the end of the day, this case is about greed and theft of a celebrity's success. So let's go, Team Kells. It's time to start pulling ahead. According to Bernard Cole, it's not really a hard thing to think about. When those so-called R. Kelly VCR tapes first came out, I knew it was all BS, because I was working at a place where you could rent any VHS tape but porn, and yet there were no tapes in none of these big stores or that particular tape. Knowing that and seeing the people that was on the streets with stacks of these tapes, the ones that were selling CP tapes of all kind, I knew then that the tape was some manipulation and manufactured BS to sabotage R. Kelly. I knew it. Whoever stole it, duplicated it and sold it out is the real phonographer and not R. Kelly. And according to bOnjean's appeal submission, nothing on the tape qualified as CP. The whole tape idea that has been heavily spoken about by the media for decades therefore turned out to have been mere propaganda against the R&B king. Shame on those who promoted it. It's no wonder some were fraudsters already serving their time in prison. If you wish to take part in a live interview on this channel discussing any of these topics, let us know by emailing us on sashahnnewsroom@gmail.com for scheduling. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.